I didn't come here to entertain you. I didn't come to give you a pep talk that makes you clap your hands and then forget everything by the time you get to your car. No, I came here to sound the alarm. I came here with fire in my bones because your soul is in danger, and the danger isn't out there somewhere in the world. It's right here inside you. Don't delay, wake up now, because the greatest threat to your spiritual life is not what you think. It's not the obvious sins you already know how to name. It's not lust. It's not greed. It's not even anger. Those are real, but they're not the root. No. The real battlefield, the central war zone of your soul, is pride. Let me tell you something hard. Pride is the vice you hate in others and ignore in yourself. Isn't that true? You see arrogance in someone else and it turns your stomach. You notice conceit in a coworker or a friend and you can't stand it. But when that same spirit creeps into your own heart, you excuse it, you rename it, you polish it until it looks like ambition or self-confidence. Pride is not a nuisance, it's a spiritual cancer. And the devil loves when you underestimate it. Because pride is not one sin among many, it is the mother of sins, the poison in the well, the disease at the core of the human condition. That's why C.S. Lewis, one of the sharpest Christian minds of the last century, said pride is the essential vice, the ultimate evil. Think about it. People admit to anger. People admit to being hot-tempered. Some even admit to being greedy or lustful or addicted. But when was the last time you heard someone say, "My deepest struggle is pride"? Almost never. And yet pride is the very thing driving all those other sins. The world celebrates pride. The world puts it on billboards, brands it on t-shirts, hashtags it on social media. Be proud. Stand tall. Show yourself. Pride is praised in the world, but in the kingdom of God, pride is treason against the king. So let me confront you directly. Are you ready to be honest before God? Because this isn't about pointing fingers at someone else. This isn't about the proud boss at work, or the arrogant neighbor, or the show-off in your family. This is about you, and it's about me. Pride hides behind masks. It dresses itself up as virtue. It whispers, "You're not proud, you're just strong. You're not arrogant, you're just confident. You're not self-absorbed, you're just driven." But underneath all the disguises, pride is still pride, and it is killing us from the inside out. My friend, you cannot afford to sleep through this message. Pride is eating away at your soul even now, and if you don't tear it out by the root, it will grow until nothing is left but ashes. And so today we're going to walk with Lewis, and more importantly, with the Word of God, through 4 piercing truths about pride. We're going to expose it, name it, and take the axe of confession to the root of it, because pride doesn't have to win. But first you must see it for what it island. You must see it clearly. You must be willing to look in the mirror and ask, "Lord, is it I?" So let's begin with the first way C.S. Lewis examines pride. Pride is not just a sin among sins. It is the root of all sin. Listen closely, because this may be the most important truth you hear today. Pride is not just one sin among many. Pride is the taproot, the underground system that feeds every poisonous vine growing in the human heart. You can cut away the branches, you can clip at the leaves, but if you don't deal with the root, the whole thing will grow back stronger than before. C.S. Lewis said it plainly, pride is spiritual cancer. It doesn't stay in one place. It doesn't sit quietly on the surface. It spreads, metastasizes, pushes its poison into every corner of your soul. That's why I must tell you with all the urgency I can muster, pride is not a nuisance, it's a killer. Do you remember what made the devil the devil? It wasn't lust, it wasn't greed, It wasn't anger. No, it was pride. Isaiah 14 paints the picture. Lucifer looked at the throne of God and said, I will ascend. I will make myself like the Most High. And in that moment, the highest angel became the darkest enemy. Pride always wants to rise above, to compete with God Himself, to dethrone the Almighty and enthrone the self. That's why pride is not just another sin, it is anti-God by nature. Pride refuses to submit. Pride refuses to serve. Pride refuses to need. Pride says, I will not bow. And when that seed takes root, every other evil follows. Think about it. Anger often flows from pride. How dare they treat me like this? Greed grows from pride. I deserve more than them. Lust is twisted by pride. I can take what I want because I'm entitled. Pride doesn't just accompany sin. It gives sin its fuel, its justification, its fire. Other sins may bring people together in weakness. Drunkards share a laugh. Gossipers bond over their whispers. Even thieves sometimes form partnerships. But pride isolates. Pride says, I am above you. I am against you. Pride divides churches, shatters friendships, splits families. How many homes are broken not because of money, not because of circumstances, but because no one would humble themselves and say, I was wrong. Forgive me. I've seen it. Maybe you have too. A church meeting where voices rise, not because the Bible is unclear, but because pride will not yield. A marriage where two hearts grow cold, not because of one catastrophic failure, but because neither partner will say, I'm sorry. A nation divided, not because compromise is impossible, but because pride insists, my way or nothing. And if you haven't seen pride in yourself, let me say it gently but firmly. It's because it's hiding in plain sight. Pride is a master of disguise. It can look like strength. It can look like confidence. It can even look like holiness. But underneath the mask, it is still the same root, still the same poison, still the same rebellion. Look again at Luke 18, the Pharisee and the tax collector. The Pharisee stood tall, praying, Thank God I'm not like other men. Pride had so twisted his soul that he thought his arrogance was righteousness. But the tax collector beat his chest and said, God, have mercy on me, a sinner. And Jesus said it was the humble man who went home justified. Pride will always destroy you, because pride will always set you against God. You cannot serve God and serve your ego at the same time. Pride isolates, dominates, destroys. It is the enemy within, the spiritual cancer that will consume your soul if you don't root it out. So hear me now. If pride is the root, then confession is the axe. Will you swing it today, or will you let that cancer spread one day longer? Now let's go deeper. Pride doesn't simply want something, it wants more than you. Pride doesn't want to be rich, it wants to be richer than you. Pride doesn't want to be successful, it wants to be more successful than you. Pride doesn't just want to be noticed, it wants to be noticed instead of you. C.S. Lewis said it clearly. Pride gets no pleasure out of having something, only out of having more. That's the dark secret of pride. It cannot enjoy blessings. It can only enjoy comparisons. Pride doesn't feed on what you possess. It feeds on the fact that someone else has less. Haven't you felt it? You work hard, you reach a goal, you achieve something, and for a moment you feel joy. But then you notice someone else has gone further. Someone else is applauded louder. Someone else shines brighter, and suddenly your joy evaporates. Nothing changed in your life, except your eyes landed on someone else's success. That's how pride works. And I need to say this plainly. You don't just want success. You want to be seen. You don't just want to be blessed. You want people to know you're blessed. You don't just want to run your race well. You want to run faster than the person beside you. That is the sinister whisper of pride. Other sins are competitive only by accident. Greed may set two men against each other when resources are scarce. Lust may set rivals against each other when they desire the same person. But pride is competitive by nature. It doesn't need circumstances. It doesn't need scarcity. It doesn't need conflict. Pride invents competition where there was none. Let me put it this way. Greed would be satisfied with enough food to fill your belly. But pride wants to sit at the table and make sure your plate is smaller. Lust might be content with affection. But pride wants affection that outshines yours. Greed may want wealth to enjoy life. Pride wants wealth to prove superiority. That's why pride robs your peace. It poisons your creativity. It stifles your generosity. Because pride cannot rest until it outshines. It cannot give without calculating. It cannot create without competing. It cannot simply be, it must be more. And is this not the sickness of our age? Social media thrives on it. Endless scrolling, endless comparison. You post not to share joy, but to count likes. You measure not the beauty of your life, but the attention it receives. Pride is the engine behind celebrity culture, influencer obsession, and the quiet misery of comparison traps. Lewis gave us a vivid image, the big noise at the party. Pride says, I want to be the center. I want to be the one everyone notices. And when someone else takes that spotlight, we burn with irritation. Isn't it true? Pride doesn't just dislike others' arrogance, it resents others' success. And this is why so many of us are weary. Listen to me. You're exhausted, not because you don't have enough, but because pride told you someone else has more. You are drowning in abundance, but pride has convinced you it's not enough until you're ahead. Friend, pride is stealing your life one comparison at a time. It has chained you to a race that never ends. No matter how far you run, there will always be someone ahead, and pride will whisper, run faster, run harder, run emptier. But let me tell you the truth. You were never meant to compete for worth. You were meant to rest in God's love. You were never meant to climb over others to prove your identity. You were meant to kneel before the Father and find your identity in Him. So I ask you, how long will you let pride be your master? How long will you trade your joy for comparisons that never satisfy? You don't need more. You need freedom. Now, let me take you somewhere most of us don't want to go. We can admit pride in our careers, in our money, in our social lives. But what about in our faith? What about in our worship, in our prayers, in our ministries? I need to tell you the truth. Pride doesn't stop at the door of the church. Pride will march right into the sanctuary, kneel at the altar, lift its hands high and pretend it's worship. Some of the proudest people I've ever met were kneeling with their eyes closed and their hands raised. And I say this with trembling because I've been there myself. I've prayed prayers, I've sung songs, I've even preached sermons, and in the secret corners of my heart, I wasn't thinking about God's glory. I was thinking about mine. I was imagining how people saw me. I was imagining God's approval as a mirror to admire myself. That's the most terrifying thing about pride. It can counterfeit humility. It can wear the mask of piety. It can disguise itself in the very language of devotion. And if you don't watch out, you will be deceived into thinking you're serving God when you're only serving yourself. C.S. Lewis warned us. They pay a penny's worth of imaginary humility to God and get a pound's worth of pride toward others. Isn't that chilling? You can look like you're bowing before God, while in reality you're elevating yourself above everyone else. You can pray prayers that sound holy and yet are poisoned by comparison. Think of Jesus' warning in Matthew 7. People will say, "Lord, Lord, did we not prophesy in your name? Did we not cast out demons and perform miracles?" And he will reply, "I never knew you. How could that be?" Because their ministry wasn't about him, it was about them. Pride had invaded their spiritual life, and their works became a platform for their own glory. I've seen the proud preacher who thunders against sin from the pulpit, not because he loves the truth, but because he loves the sound of his own authority. I've seen the worshipper who cries and raises their voice, not to glorify God, but to make sure others see their passion. I've seen the servant who volunteers endlessly, not because of love, but because they crave recognition. And I've seen myself in all of them. And here's the tragic irony. Pride makes us look down on others. And as long as you're looking down, you cannot look up. You cannot look at God when your eyes are fixed on comparing yourself to the people around you. So let me ask you with all seriousness, are you worshipping the real God, or just admiring your reflection in stained glass? Are you praying to the Father, or are you praying to the audience in your head? Are you serving in humility, or are you building a pedestal for yourself? This is the most dangerous place pride can hide, because here it looks like holiness. Here it looks like devotion. Here it looks like righteousness. And if you don't expose it, if you don't repent of it, you will spend your whole life bowing in the right direction with the wrong heart. Friend, I plead with you, don't let pride rob you of the very thing you were made for. Don't let it corrupt your worship. Don't let it blind your eyes to God. Humble yourself. Confess it. Tear down the disguise. Because the moment you stop pretending, the moment you stop performing, the moment you lift your eyes from others and fix them on Jesus, that's the moment pride loses its power. C.S. Lewis didn't soften his words. He called pride what it really is, spiritual cancer. And that's exactly what it is, a disease that doesn't just wound you, it consumes you. Pride doesn't leave you limping. It leaves you hollow. It doesn't just stain your soul. It eats your soul from the inside out. I've been there. I know what it feels like to be so full of myself that there was no room left for peace. I've lived in those seasons where every thought circled back to me. Every disappointment was an offense against me. Every success was a chance to brag about me. And do you know what I found at the center of that self-obsession? Not joy, not satisfaction, not freedom, but emptiness. You were made to love, but pride won't let you. Pride isolates you from others because it turns every relationship into a contest. You can't genuinely rejoice when someone else is blessed because pride whispers, "Why not me?" You can't truly comfort someone who's hurting because pride wonders, "What about my pain?" Pride strangles love until your heart beats only for yourself. You were made for joy, but pride steals it. Even when you have enough, more than enough, pride whispers, "Look, they have more." And suddenly what once satisfied you tastes bitter. Pride poisons every blessing, every success, every gift, until nothing is enough. You were made for wisdom and clarity, but pride destroys even that. Pride obliterates common sense because it twists the truth to protect your ego. Pride will have you argue against reality itself rather than admit you were right. Pride will blind you to the obvious, distort your judgment, and make you cling to your own destruction just so you can say you never back down. Lewis put it this way, pride is spiritual cancer. It eats up the very possibility of love or contentment or even common sense. Do you see it? Pride doesn't just make you sinful, it makes you inhuman. It strips away everything God designed you to enjoy love for others, joy in your soul, sanity in your mind. I think of the man who made it, the man who climbed the ladder, who built his wealth, who earned the applause of the world. From the outside he looked untouchable, But when the applause faded and he went home at night, he was alone. No wife, no children close, no friends who could stand him. He won every competition pride pushed him into, and he lost everything that mattered. That's what pride does. And here's the most twisted part. Pride doesn't just make us miserable, it makes us love our misery. Because misery convinces us we're important. Pride whispers, "See how hard you have it. No one understands you. No one suffers like you. You must be special." And so we clutch our bitterness like a trophy, convinced that our pain proves our worth. This is the madness of pride. It devours love, joy, and sanity until all that remains is a self-absorbed shadow. Friend, if you feel it, don't ignore it. If you see it in your life, don't excuse it. Pride is not your friend. It is not your strength. It is not your identity. It is cancer, and unless you cut it out, it will consume you whole. Are you tired of the weight of yourself? Be honest. Aren't you exhausted from carrying around your own ego, your own comparisons, your own desperate need to be noticed, applauded, and approved? Aren't you weary of always measuring, always competing, always trying to prove you are enough? Friend, that's not life, that's slavery, and the chains are pride. But here's the good news. There's freedom. There's a better way, and that way is humility. Now hear me carefully. Humility is not thinking less of yourself. It's thinking of yourself less. It's not groveling, not pretending you're worthless, not denying the gifts God has given you. No, humility is freedom. Freedom from obsession with yourself. Freedom to love others without envy. Freedom to rejoice in blessings without comparison. And most of all, humility is the doorway into God's presence. Because as long as you are full of yourself, there is no room for Him. But the moment you empty yourself, the moment you bow low, the moment you confess, that's the moment grace floods in. God doesn't demand humility to humiliate you. He calls you to humility to heal you. He's not trying to take something from you. He's trying to give something to you. He wants to strip off the heavy costume of pride, the fancy dress you've been strutting around in, with all your posing and pretending, and replace it with freedom, peace, and joy. C.S. Lewis said it's like drinking cold water in a desert. That's what humility feels like when you finally let go of pride. It's relief. It's rest. It's the fresh wind of God's Spirit blowing through the dry places of your soul. But you cannot wait. Pride will whisper, "Do it tomorrow. Think about it later. Don't listen. Don't delay. Wake up now. This is your moment. Not tomorrow. Not later. Now." If you feel the weight of pride, drop it. If you see the cost, stop it. If you long for God, run to Him. Right now, say it aloud with me. I choose humility. I choose God. I choose now.